and all my dear friends. It is with much pride and elation that I welcome you all to SAMVAAD 2020, an integral part of Avartan, NITIE's annual business festival that encompasses business, culture, and sport. SAMVAAD, the Media Conclave, had brought together some of India's highly illustrious leaders to discuss and share their views on the trends and contemporary issues of the industry. This year, we have lined up some of India's best leaders and veterans to enlighten us on the central theme, emerging role of media in society in post-COVID era. I now request Dean Student Affairs Professor Hema Date Ma'am to welcome the esteemed guest for the event.
Thank you, Indrani. It's indeed matter of great pride and elation for us to welcome the esteemed dignitaries of the event. Good morning to all of you. The National Institute of Industrial Engineering was established in the year 1963 by the Government of India and the United Nations International Labour Organization. Avartan, the annual management festival of NITIE Mumbai, has been epitome for fostering industrial relationship since 1995. In its 2 decades of inspiring solutions, Avartan presents a unique panorama of corporate and academic arenas to foster excellence and innovation involving management concepts and practices. It's a great privilege to introduce our esteemed guest. I would like to welcome Mr. Namit LV, Chief Executive Officer of the Hindu Group. Welcome, sir. In his illustrious career, he has over 2 decades of experience in the media industry across the publishing, radio, broadcasting, and media agency verticals. He brings with him the expertise and hands-on experience in effectively leading the company in the face of far-reaching changes and challenges in the media landscape. Next, we welcome Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Businessworld. Welcome you, sir. Since taking over Businessworld, Mr. Batra has expanded the business into digital, events, and BW communications. Mr. Batra is also appointed by Government of India as the chairman of an industry committee formed to come up with a vocational training framework for the media, communication, and entertainment industry. He mentors many budding entrepreneurs and has taken many initiatives for mentorship and growth. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Rajat Nigam, Group Chief Technology Officer, Network 18 Media and Investment Limited. He is a pioneer in the media industry with a rich experience of over 28 years. As a Senior Vice President, he had led the technology and broadcasting operations of the Times Global Broadcasting Group. In his current role as a CTO of Network 18, he leads a big media technology and operations team managing verticals including enterprise IT, cybersecurity, digital transformation, and innovation. Welcome you, sir. We all are excited to have you all with us here at NITIE Mumbai and learn from the wisdom and expertise of our distinguished guests. Without much ado, I would like to invite our moderator for the day, Professor Poonam Singh, to please take the session forward. Thank you so much. Thanks to all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
And thanks to everyone for giving me this opportunity to be part of this distinguished panel and to be able to interact with them. Good morning, everyone. This is, of course, time of pandemic. And I think like everyone, the media industry is also affected, probably on 2 ways. Like there would be challenges as well as there would be opportunities. And of course, media being a unique industry and one of the pillars of our democracy, it would have some unique challenges of their own. So which we are probably going to discuss today, and we have with us a distinguished panel to hear from them. So what I understand from from the topic, like emerging role of media in society in post-COVID era, I would kind of divide it into two broad categories. One is in terms of the business model, how this gets impacted, how it's going to change, what are the learnings, and the other aspect is in terms of the news, which is of course the backbone of this industry and the output that we get out of it. So coming to business model, I think, this is based on my understanding, of course, as a novice, would be that, I think they were one industry who never closed down. They were there every hour, whether it's in terms of print, whether it's in digital medium, television, they had to be there. But we could also appreciate the challenges that the industry would have faced in the face of lockdown, right? It wouldn't have been easy to do the reporting from the ground. Then, of course, the revenue channel being, I'm sure, affected with budgets being cut down for advertisements and so on. So there is this challenge that is there. Further, I think on the side of, consumption of news, there is a behavioral change that is happening, and that would again probably impact the industry. The industry also had the challenge of, sharing this whole news of pandemic. While it has to be a news and at the same time shouldn't be creating panic. So there's a delicate balance that the media industry had to do. So, we probably have lots to hear on that from our distinguished panel. So I think I'll stop here for the moment and I pass on the, virtual dais to our guests, just to, share the format of the proceedings today. So we have amongst us three distinguished panelists, of course. So we will start with Mr. Anurag Batra. I think he just joined us. Sir, welcome to you. I can see.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sain.
Yes, and if I understand, you probably have an emergency.
I don't have an emergency.
Okay.
I have scheduled interviews for a new sales head for a new year, so I'll have to do that. Navaneeth understands the role of a sales head. Good to see you, Navaneeth. One of the reasons I'm here is because Navaneeth texted me in the night, and I have genuinely so there is no emergency. Yes.
Okay.
Of course, a good sales agent head is always like, if you get it, it can be a boon,
So we'll start with you, sir. Then for each speaker, we have around 15 to 20 minutes. And after all the three keynotes are over, we are going to go with the question and answer session. This will be moderated. So I request all the audiences to kind of put in their questions on the chat box so that it's become easier for us to moderate it as we go on. Thank you again to all of you. And I just pass it on to Dr. Anurag Batra. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, NITIE, for inviting me. I've been to NITIE once. It's a lovely campus. Of course, we're doing it virtually. My friend Navaneeth, good to see you. And I hope I get to see you in Chennai and you buy me a lunch soon. We look forward to those times. But let me talk to you about media. First of all, I'm a student of media. So, I'm learning like all of you are learning. I may have lost hair, but loss of hair is no guarantee for wisdom. But let me tell you what's first happening in the environment, what's happening in the business, just to contextualize, and then quickly come to what's happening in media, where is it headed, and what are the opportunities for professionals and students there. First of all, let me say to you that in the last 8 months, the way we work, the way we live, the way we think has been changed. And some things have been changed for possibly good. Some things we are compelled to change for the time being. So there is a compulsion element and there is a choice element. Only time will tell us what will stick and what will not stick. So my top 6 observations from the last 8 months are: first, less is more. We realize that whether it's in material resources, or it is in travel, or it is in food, or it is any area, less is more. We don't have to necessarily do something. Second is never say never. I mean, if I said to you that we do this conference, me sitting in Delhi, Navaneeth in Chennai, you in your campus, you would not believe me. Or that all my colleagues will work from home, you would not believe me. But the fact is, we should never say never. Third is, very importantly, health, immunity, well-being is become a big focus. And dare I say, mental well-being. Fourth is families have stayed home, professionals have stayed home, so they've saved money. Indians save for the rainy days, so we've saved money. Fifth is, very importantly, when we can't go out, we've gone within. We've tried to see, think what's right, what's wrong. And last but not the least, it's an opportunity to pivot, to orbit change, to be able to reinvent. In my view, that's what's happened to most people. I can't say all people, but to most people. Now, let's look at the future of work. The future of work is remote. The future of work is flexi. The future of work is in technology. The future of work is in projects. I won't call it the gig economy, but I will call it projects. The future is homepreneurs. I was part of a global discussion yesterday where global experts were there, and they said women have coped up much better in this crisis than men. While women have to do more roles, than a man, mostly, right? So clearly there is a new environment, there is a new abnormal. I don't call it the new normal. Now, we've had more time because we've saved time on traveling. We've saved time on, the socializing we do. So we've had more time. What have we done? We've done two things. One, we have consumed content through traditional media. And I have to give you an example. Maybe I'm old, but I get 10 newspapers, including the Hindu and the Hindu Business Line, at my home, and I look forward to reading them. I traveled for the first time to Pune on Friday evening, and on Sunday evening from Pune to Bombay. And I can tell you, in the hotels, I missed my newspapers. I mean, anybody who tells you only digital works, for a large population, we still want to physically read our newspapers. And I'm being real, okay? I bought all my magazines, whether a Bloomberg Business Week or a Fortune, Forbes, of course, Businessworld. And, again, the genre should grow. I'm not going to, everyone in the segment should grow. So we've spent a lot of time on traditional media. Look at news, whatever. News channels, the average viewership went up by 60% in the last 8 months. 60%, okay? Now that's a lot of average viewership going up. Digital consumption is up by 300%. I have credit for newspapers like I've never done because I've had more time. My consumption of media has gone up overall. Of course, there's a lot of digital, there's a lot of forwards that come on WhatsApp, which are links of stories, not necessarily I discovered them. So a combination of my old media behavior, which is physical media, combination of my watching more TV. Of course, I was following the US elections. I have keen interest in the Bihar elections. Of course, what's been happening in the last 4 days in Bombay. I have a point of view on that it's not good for democracy. Whether that media editor and product did wrong, the one wrong cannot be substituted or dealt with by another wrong. So I have a point of view on that. The point I'm trying to make is that the consumption of media is going up. That's for sure. Now, I keep saying Navaneeth is not in the business of newspapers. He's in the business of news. He has a huge brand called The Hindu. Hindu does fantastic content, bold content, honest content. And today, I don't know the traffic of his site, but I'm sure in the last month, it would have gone to unprecedented levels. Now, we are in the business of content and brand. We're in the business of news. I'm in the business of business news. I'm not necessarily in the business of magazines. I have a huge brand called Businessworld, and it's the 40th year, and we built. So my site does 30 plus million traffic organically, and all our sites do 55 million traffic. Now we are no longer in just the magazine business. We're in a 360-degree business. So for all the professionals and students logged in, it's about the brand and content. We will morph to become new age media brands. We have tremendous credibility. Can you bring the credibility that Hindu has to any other media brand? I'm not sure, right? the 40-year-old legacy of business world. Can you bring that to something else? I'm not sure. I'm not saying a newbie cannot. And, Joe Biden wins signifies that, old is new. I mean, can I say it better? Old is new, because the world needs reassurance. The world needs reassurance. The world made mistakes. People made mistakes. They realize those mistakes aren't working. And I'm talking of a leadership level. So coming back to media will create new jobs in content creation. We're in the business of content creation. We are becoming data businesses. We are becoming technology businesses. As we deal with the Google, Facebook, the new startups that are rooted in technology and have no legacy to protect, we are morphing ourselves to be technology companies. We are looking at user data and technology trends more than ever. So it will create jobs in 5 areas. One is video is becoming very big. The 3 V's of media. Video, I don't use the word vernacular, I'll use the word Indian language and voice. So you will find more and more jobs being created in video, voice, and Indian languages. You'll see jobs created in social media. You'll see job created in data interpretation. You'll see job created in social media marketing. And last but not the least, the number of content people will go up. So we are in the business of content. And dare I say, even in a news organization, content is the traditional editorial content, user-generated content, and what I would say is content that is curated. What I mean is curated is you see what is trending and you go after that. So clearly, the role of data science, the role of trends will come into place. It will create new age careers. The ability to be able to be camera friendly will be very important. The ability to be able to be a 360-degree journalist or a content professional will be, which means you shoot your own video, you edit your own video, you put up your own video, and you also market your own video. I'm saying video, it could be text content, it could be audio content. So that will become, also as organizations in media will do cost cutting while they expand on another level from a lot of areas, they will do cost cutting. So, multitasking in terms of a certain individual having all the skills will become important. Now, let me talk on the revenue side. You talked about in the pandemic, Poonamji, you talked about the fact that sales has been impacted. Of course, if the business and economy doesn't do, but media, fortunately, has been lesser impacted, if you, relatively speaking, if you take in airlines. So we have to look at the positives. We were still able to do what we were able to do from our homes or in a limited way from office. We were able to put out content. We were able to bring out our magazines, newspapers, news channels. So we are more blessed. Also, the challenge of information in COVID, we were able to fulfill that challenge. We were able to get trust. And again, dare I say, I'll say it in Hindi, and then I'll try and say it. Ek samudra manthan ho raha hai. Right now, and I would believe that the media still has tremendous credibility. When episodes like that has happened this week happen, government is the only person and powerful people, whether it's police, it's bureaucracy, or it is the corrupt judiciary. They're the only one that benefit by chipping away at the credibility of media because they don't want media to look good. So I think there is a renaissance happening. We understand our responsibility. You'll see that there is a lot of responsible media products. While there may be media products that have a certain slant, certain ideology, and they wear it on the sleeve, I think the viewers, there are viewers for that. I'm not saying there are no viewers for that. There are viewers that live in an echo chamber. There are editors that live in an echo chamber, and they keep fanning that. But I think the role of media continues to be holding the power to be accountable, to bringing the issues of people whose issues haven't been brought up, and to be able to, for the first time in the mainstream media, I think business and economy has to be more center stage, because while COVID impacts lives, it also impacts the livelihoods, and livelihoods can also mean loss of lives. So if the economy is not back, and when people have job, it also keeps social tensions away. So I think media is very conscious of its role. Yes, as a collective media fraternity, we can do better, but I'd like to use a platform to condemn a certain state police picking up a certain journalist with whatever whatever kind of reporting, I do not support that journalism. And, it may not have kept to the rules of journalism, but to be able to do what they did is totally abuse of power. It is a vendetta. And, no media professional or person should celebrate that. As we don't celebrate the kind of journalism that person did, we cannot celebrate what has happened. Because if it has happened in Mumbai, it could well happen in Chennai. It could well happen in Delhi to somebody, to Noida. So I think we have to come together to be able to put up a, merits. One wrong cannot be met with another wrong. So I just want to say these are exciting times for media. There are great careers ahead of you. The future is about domain experts. You need to be specializing in something and to be known for something. And I think in terms of a business and economy, it will take us 12 to 18 months to come back. I believe the government will do sectoral interventions now. There is a second package that is expected any day before Diwali. So I think you'll see that government spending will make the most difference. And the moment we're able to tackle the coronavirus sentiment, because there is an actual issue and there is a sentiment, there is a fear factor, and rightly so. There must be fear. Without fear, we will not be disciplined. So I think as that happens, India will be in a better place. We can see the green shoots, but I think the next 12 to 24 months, we'll see our economy coming back in full bloom, which will have trickle-down impact on the media industry. I'd like to leave it here, stick to my time, and I would have loved to listen to Navaneeth, but I will get a recording and I'll watch it. And I wish NITIE all the best, and all the students who have joined to be able to be part of this event, all the best. Thank you so much for inviting me here, and thank you for accepting my request. I don't have an EA, so I mess up things, and I realize that from 10:05, I need to show up for an interview, which is for 3 hours. Sales had 2 hours and an EA. A good EA can really, I'm used to having an EA for the last 19.5 years. So clearly, I did, that's the, otherwise I can do panel discussion. There's no problem. I would have enjoyed that. So thank you so much. Back to you, Poonamji.
Thank you, Dr. Batra. This was really heartening to hear you. I think there were mostly positives, that, or rather everything was positive in what you shared. The key points that I could get was responsible journalism. The second point was that, of course, the consumption of media has increased, which means more opportunities. But probably with the changing scenarios, what we want is a more, people with a 360-degree kind of expertise is the word you had used. And which means more opportunities for individuals. They need to just be specialized in that direction.
Absolutely. And you all should read, while you read businessworld.in, read exchangeformedia.com. You want to keep in touch with the media world, advertising, marketing world. I also read it daily now that I run Businessworld. Naval runs E4M. And so, all the best. I'll have to take your leave, otherwise I'll get late. Navaneeth, I'll call you post lunch. All the best, guys. Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So now, as we go ahead, I think next I would like to request Mr. Navaneeth to take over again the dais and share his thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure talking to all of you. I think Anurag has summarized it well, so I will try and add to that. I read the concept note that came along with the invite. It was an extremely well put concept note. I think Ms. Poonam touched upon some aspects of it. So I was thinking, because we are talking to management students for use to case studies, I thought a case study approach to this topic is far better. We also run a business line case study challenge, which currently we have announced. So a bit of recency there and influence from there. I think from a context point of view, I think there are 4 areas to the context. COVID alone hasn't changed the world. The world was always changing. The pace of change was always accelerating. I think what COVID has done is it's reset many of the things we believed in. This also is a change that is sudden. This is a change that collectively as individuals, as companies, as society, we don't understand because we don't have an experience of this. We don't have muscle memory in terms of how we should respond. So COVID has only accelerated ongoing changes, and it's brought in lots of uncertainty at a single time. So in that sense, it is a singular event, and we have had no experience of dealing with it. Like with any change, there are challenges and opportunities. I think Anurag spoke about the challenges and opportunities. I truly believe technology is a big and key enabler, and we have seen that happen. A good and funny forward on WhatsApp was who enabled technology change in your company? Option A, CEO, option B, CTO, and option C, COVID. I think COVID accelerated technological transformation. And I'm sure Mr. Rajat Nigam will speak more about technology. And also consumers are changing and consumption patterns are fundamentally changing. So we are seeing consumers change across sectors, consumption patterns changing, and these have different implications for different industries. So at a fundamental level, the world was already changing. COVID has accelerated that change. We have never had the experience of dealing with it. So it is uncertain. And responses during uncertain times and during incidents where we have no collective experience, in my view, are better solved through collaboration and a bottoms-up approach rather than a traditional top-down command and control structure. This change has opportunities and challenges. Opportunities can be leveraged through technology. And we need to recognize that consumers are changing and consumption patterns are changing. And look at what's happening in education itself. We never imagined so much would change. We never imagined so much would change in hospitality, in travel, and media is no exception. So if trends are changing, I think it's important to assess and visualize the post-COVID world. So in my view, it is important to look at what behavior has permanently changed. So there were certain things we used to do. There were certain ways of doing it. Today we don't do it that way, and in a post-COVID world, we wouldn't do that. So there are certain things we have stopped doing. Certain things where we have slowed down. So for instance, things like eating out, traveling has slowed down or stopped during COVID. Post-COVID, whether it will return to normal or the deceleration will continue is a view we need to have. And there are certain things that have accelerated. For instance, flexible working times, work from home are not entirely new concepts, but they're completely accelerated. Is this acceleration going to stay in a post-COVID world? How is it changing? My view is it is permanently changed. And there are certain things that are completely new. These are things we never did. So in a changing context, for each industry, it's important to look at. So typically in management, we use a stop, start, and continue framework to solve problems. So a post-COVID world needs to have a framework around what will we stop doing, what will we do less of, what will we do more of, and what will we do which is completely new. I think if we bucket our understanding of consumer behavior and trends, it is easy to craft solutions for specific industries. Now I come to the media role and responsibility in a post-COVID world. I would like to articulate my response under four broad areas. Like Professor Poonam said, media never stopped. We ran our businesses at great risk to our people. And in the beginning of COVID, we ran our businesses at great economic risk also, because you had costs, but you didn't have revenue. And that has recovered, and I'm fairly bullish it will recover quicker. So I think our first role is towards our people. More than anything else, our role is towards our people. How do we ensure the safety of our people? How do we ensure the well-being of our people? And in a changing work scenario, where touch and feel is gone, largely, and we are creatures of habit. We thrive in social environments, and I know as students, all of you miss campus life because that is how we are wired for. So how do we take care of our people becomes very critical. I think our primary role is towards our people. There are a couple of things we have done. We realize that people are far more stressed, working far more hours. Across our company, we are mandated a 3-day off for our people every quarter. So people take off Monday to Wednesday or Wednesday to Friday, and they don't have internet, they don't have email access. So people can truly take off, spend times with their families, because working from home doesn't necessarily mean spending time with families. So your children working on one computer in one room, you are working. So families are together physically, but I don't think we are together mentally, because all of us are working more than ever before. So primary role is towards our people. Secondary, the second one is our purpose and vision. I think our purpose and vision has truly shown during the pandemic. People want credible news, people want trusted news, and we continue to put it out. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it has taught us to double down on our purpose. And it is a huge tribute to our founding fathers who articulated our purpose in 1878, and that is more relevant than ever before. So it has taught us to be true to our purpose and continue on that mission. The third is our role and responsibility towards our communities. Communities are our readers at large. So how do we inform them with credible news? How do we urge them to stay safe? How do we help communities to balance between life and livelihood? How do we kickstart people's lives while advocating them to stay safe? The couple of initiatives we have done in this space. For instance, recently we have launched an initiative called Tamil Nadu Smiling, saying we used to smile. We need to continue to smile behind our masks and help one another. So we have got a bunch of initiatives through discussions around industry sectors, involving industry, academia, government, and influencers, to discuss about what is the future of this sector, how do we get back, how do we regenerate employment, how do we adapt to a new normal, but move on in life. Similarly, we are helping our readers discover new deals with retailers, giving them discounts. And festival season is one season where we should be happy. It doesn't mean 100,000 people accumulate and have a meal and burst crackers. But this has been extremely stressful times for everybody. So it is important to be grateful for what we have and also celebrate the festival season. So we are doing some work in that direction. So our first responsibility is towards our people, doubling down on our purpose and vision, our communities, and finally our own business. Our business models will fundamentally change. We have been lucky, like Anurag said, we have seen some kind of rebound in the last 2-3 months. The festival season offers reasonable cheer given the context in terms of shape and size of our revenues. But fundamentally, what COVID has done is it's put revenues under enormous stress. So lots of companies have been extremely cost conscious. There are certain things which you naturally save on, like travel, office space. Work from home allows you to give up office space, and many companies have done that. So from a context point of view, if there are 4 things, and we need to look at the world in terms of what will continue, what will stop, what will start, and our responsibilities towards our people, our purpose, our communities, and our business. What are the implications of all of this in a post-COVID world for media as I see it? I think Anurag put it beautifully. None of us are pure play media companies. I don't look at the Hindu. The Hindu is a 142-year-old brand, but I don't think we're in the business of newspapers. I think fundamentally we are transitioning from a publishing business to a content business. So I think the implications for media houses, I have 7 large implications. One is to stay authentic and transition from pure play to multimedia. Today we tell our stories and articulate our views through the printed product. We do that online, but we will do it through through videos, through podcasts. So the same story can be told in multiple ways and multiple platforms. So we will become medium agnostic and transition from publishing to content. The second, I think, is traditionally media has been a so-called high priest of content. Today, I think people have views. Multiple views are good. So I think media will transition from being a high priest of content to a curator of collaborative content. So you need not create everything. Anurag also touched upon it. The role of media will change from merely informing to positively influencing. What is our view of the world? What do we think is good for the world? If we believe in a truly secular, equal world, and our definition of equality is no discrimination, equal access to education, equal access to opportunities, equal access to hygiene, equal access to infrastructure. These are problems worth solving, and that is our purpose. That you can't do by merely informing. You need to influence. So I see media transitioning from a pure inform role to a role of positively influencing society and creating a world that is better, and do our bit for the greater good. And that's a line I picked up from your from the context note you had put up. Fourth, I think media will transition from merely reporting problems to enabling solutions. While our role is to hold up the mirror to the powers that be and tell them what we think, highlight what is right, what is wrong, media cannot stop at that. Media is at a unique position of being a bridge between various constituents. We are at a place where we can connect government, policymakers, thinkers, educationers, academia, science, arts, everybody together. So media will increasingly play an active role in bringing people together and solving for problems. Many media companies have started doing this. We also have done a few with varying degrees of success. But increasingly, I think the future of media is transitioning from merely reporting problems to being part of the solution. Fifth change, I think, is today we talk about content alone. I think context is extremely important. And what do I mean by context? Context is the ability to use the experience of yesterday to make sense of what's happening today and tell our communities the implications of the choices we make today on tomorrow. That is context. And I think large, old legacy companies have tons of historical context. So for instance, we have 140 years of historical context. Somebody like the Times of India has even more. Somebody like a Hindustan Times has 100+ years. Same with the Telegraph Group or with the Manorama Group. So if we are able to use our archival content and use context to make sense of today's content and educate people about the implications of the choices we make, I think the number of mistakes we make will reduce, and we need not learn from expensive mistakes. Sixth, I think media will fundamentally transition from an advertiser-funded business to a user-funded business. Today, a lot of problems that we are discussing are because our businesses are built on advertising. Majority of our revenues come from advertising. We subsidize our products too much. India is a market where newspapers are among the lowest priced in the world. Television channels are available for next to nothing. Good digital content is given away for free. So we have given away too much for too little for too long, and set a sense of artificial entitlement that good is free, but good is not free. And if we don't pivot from an advertiser-funded model to a user-funded model, because an advertiser-funded model comes with its own flaws. Over-reliance on advertising sometimes is detrimental to truth-telling as well. So I increasingly see media companies producing great content and monetizing that content. Seventh, I would say more on a positive note. I think Indian media is at a unique position today. Why I say that is because the India story is very strong. I have immense belief in the India story. There are certain problems we need to solve, like in manufacturing, becoming a global manufacturing hub, and those will happen. But look at what's happening in EdTech. Look at what's happening in education. I think India can truly become a destination for people seeking education from all over the globe. And as India becomes an increasingly growth market, you will see a lot more people setting up shop in India, and India will also become a net importer of white collar talent. When these happen, I think the world view through an Indian lens becomes important in a global context. In that sense, I think the opportunity for Indian brands is to have a global marketplace. My ambition for ourselves is that we could be a Chennai headquartered company, but we could have consumers from all across the world, consumers who value our views, value our news, depend on our trust and credibility, who are willing to pay for that. And in the process, we secure our future, but we also create a better world, not just a better country. So those are my thoughts, and I'll rest this for now and maybe take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really, so Hindu is always, special, I think. So I'll just share quickly that, the first time one of my articles came as a editorial in Hindu, so I felt nothing less than a celebrity, actually. It's really an honor to hear you today and your thoughts on, how the media world is going to change. Now, and also thank you for appreciating our context note. Though I didn't have much of a role to play except for reviewing it, we have an excellent student team, which is they are the media relations cell. So I must appreciate their efforts here. Just to summarize, the key points that I could get from your excellent share of thoughts, of course, is, the changing roles of media. And again, a thought that is resonating with Dr. Batra as well as you is more on the content quality and the responsibility that, the media has. So that's really a very, of course, you have been doing this for long. It's not that it's something changing, but this is kind of a credential that the media has to have, and it needs to continue doing so. I would have a few questions from you at the end of the session, of course. But I would just I want to link, the last point that you made about the India story, because our broad theme of Avartan this year is, self-reliant India. So this kind of resonates again with that thought, where we increasingly, I think everyone in India, all kinds of stakeholders, we are seeing India as a agenda setter, right? So it's not that we are, small, we play our small part, we are kind of takers. We are setting agenda, and that's, I think that is a good example and a good information for our students as well, for the new generation, if I can say. So that was really positive, and I believe that a lot of it would be driven by technology as well. I think digitization is going to play quite a bit of a role. As I think you said in the beginning that, this COVID, I think that is the most positive part of COVID, that it has accelerated that digitization process. So, and that also gives me a cue now to, I think, thank you and move to our next speaker, who I think, as you also said, that he's going to speak a lot on technology, because that would be his domain. So let me welcome Mr. Rajat Nigam. Good morning, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and over to you.
I think he's on mute.
I believe you're on mute.
Well, sorry about it. So good morning again to everyone. It's always a pleasure to be in the ambience of academics, though this time it is virtual. but then I'd have the opportunity to be in your institute physically in person in earlier years. And the experience had been amazing, and I really, really loved that. Well, about me, I've been a old person, remaining married to the media industry, started my career in early 90s, and have seen the way the media changed. And when I look back, it has been an amazing journey for sure. Uh, but then the way the things have changed, actually one thing which has become very, very apparent is that the experience is at risk. So I may have an experience of around 28, 29 years, but then my experience is at risk. I'm as novice, or for that matter, my strength is as of someone who has put in 5, 6 years in the industry. Because the way the models have changed, the way the technologies have changed, the way we look at media, or for that matter any relevant off product of it has been changing with time, and changing very, very in a very, very fast. So I don't see myself to be a experienced of 29 years. Rather, I would say I'm actually challenged to having that many years of my career in the media industry. But then it is surely an exciting and entertaining part, I would say. So now, talking about the COVID, as the subject says, yes, I must also appreciate and commiserate the team which had put in the context note. It's really, really amazing, and congratulations to you, and that shows the quality of all of you. So what has happened from my perspective, though it would be, I would keep it very, very brief, as Navaneeth and Anurag had already spoken, and they have aptly put it. I would not go in deep, and rather go towards the interactive session, which would make it more fruitful, perhaps. So COVID, as I see, there were two immediate outcomes of it. One was that it helped us to put a pause button in our lifestyle. The way we were running, the pace at which we were living, the pace at which we were consuming everything around us, be it entertainment, going to movie halls, going for shopping, or going for vacation, or eating outside, everything we put a pause button to it. And we could see a lifestyle and a living changing around that, but changing for good. What it allowed was an introspection. What it allowed that to look towards yourself within, as well as families. So there have been outcomes of it, largely positive, and the experiences have been for different individuals, purely on individual basis. So that is one big thing, and I see we would not have imagined such pause before March 2020, I guess. At least I can say, and actually we would aspire for that pause in a positive manner. So not going further on that part of it, the second thing, what it helped is the change management. COVID helped the change management. As Namit said, the digitization was catalyzed by this. The change management, certainly, which in itself is a phenomena in the organization, or for that matter, the management teams have to struggle with. This helped the change management to get to digital culture, get to change workflow, how you could work from remote, how you could work with the constraints. And the brighter part of it, the output was as efficient and effective as it was earlier. So, like, for example, if I talk about news organization, we would never have imagined that an anchor during a primetime show is not in the studio or the newsroom. He was but then now he was at home, and we were just not worried about where the anchor would be. We were sure we would get him anyways. We would not be worried about the guests who would come in. They were all at homes, and we could connect it. The producers, they were all at remote. We were running a channel like Colors, which is a high value channel, by someone sitting at home. We would never have imagined those part of it. But then, yes, if it was normal lifestyle, if this was proposed by us that, okay, let's do it with a minimal resource allocation, it would not have been possible. But then this certainly helped. And what it allowed us, when the things are coming back to normal, we can budget ourselves to what is required. because there is a stress on the business. There is a stress on how we do things with respect to the resources, or for that matter of economies. So this has been one brighter point of this thing. Talking about media, media is absolutely a part of lifestyle now. And if I look back, it has actually traveled. The journey has been different. I would recall, I will cite one example in early 90s, in 1993, if I correctly recall, there was a India-Sri Lanka test match. And that was my first sports live. And I did that with just 3 cameras. And today, the cricket followers would appreciate the IPL matches are happening with 32 cameras. And those were the time when just 3 cameras, and because those were all analog cameras, and we put it in the field, because of the heat, more often than not, one of the cameras would fail. So large part of the day, we would continue with just 2 cameras. And in those age, who have watched the cricket, they would watch the batsman face in 1 over, and the next over they will get the bowler's face. So that used to be the scenario. From there, and nobody paid heed, though since it was Doordarshan days, no other channels were there, so it was still in demand. But still, it was more of a hygiene that was being done to cover a match. Things moved forward. That is wherein the introduction of third umpire happened. The third umpire that was somewhere in 1996. That is wherein. So we were asked to put 2 cameras on the sidelines, so that which could capture the run out crease. And that was the first time when we started feeling, okay, the media, that is the television, is becoming integral part of an event. So, and from there, now today when we see IPL is just happening because it is being televised. If it was not being televised, there would not have been IPL. So that has been a journey of media. And when I look back, certainly it gratifies it. When I started my career, I do not know how many of you would know it. Television was called an idiot box. And today it is smart television. So it's quite an interesting journey that has happened. Now, when we talk about media, if we analyze or examine, the media itself can be defined into 2 ways. One is consumer media, and other is the user media. Consumer media is the one traditional media, which we talk about, the newspaper, the radio, the television. That continues to be, that is mainly linear, and that is non-interactive. That has its own space. With the emergence of the other media, what has happened, these news channels per se have to take up the role of being views channel. And that has become the responsibility, because news would break on social media, it would break on Facebook, it would break on WhatsApp. But the duty of news channels, or for that matter, news publishers, is to analyze that, provide the views on either side, differentiate between what is fake and what is real, and put out with responsibility to the viewers. So the consumer media is having its own role. It continues. It's growing. I would not say it is not growing. It is growing, but then the pace has surely been gone slow. The other media, which is a user media, which I call it user media, is actually the social media, the e-platform, wherein we remain connected, which is a self-gratifying media. It recognizes yourself. That is the media which allows you to give your views in a smaller, the YouTubes are available wherein I can make my videos and upload it. There would be people who would watch it. That is not possible in a traditional media. I could be a consulting organization. There are so many blogs, podcasting happening about parenting, about different things, which was not possible in a traditional media or a typical consumer media, I would say. The beauty is this social media, or this user media, and the consumer media, they are also connected with each other on the back end. One becomes the input and also derives the output. The cases, if we recall the Spring Revolution, or for that matter in India, if we see the Anna movement which happened, it was all fueled by the social media, and all the traditional media would take that thing up, and then the output of that again goes back to the social media. It was a very, very, very interesting phenomena which happened, and in not that scale, but yes, it continues depending on the event. Like even today's US president elections, they are heavily being consumed on social media, and with the integration on the impact, even the content on the traditional media gets impacted by the social media. So that's a phenomena, and that will continue. I don't think the role of traditional media is going to go off. It has to become more responsible. Social media, again, since it is as Navaneeth used the word, it is user funded, not funded. Here I would not talk from the economics point of view, but from the content point of view. The responsibility has to come from each of us. We all are consumer as well as the resource for that part of it. Wherein in the traditional media or the consumer media, I see there are two C's which become important. One is cost, and two is the creativity. The good content certainly is in demand. If we have seen, say, for example, Netflix, or for that matter, any entertainment channel, if one has got good content, people are ready to pay for it. On the other side, the business is under stress. So that is wherein the cost becomes important. So any professional who is associated with the media has to keep that cost focus and develop his sort of outcome around a cost-effective model. So I see cost and creativity becomes two important part of it. I come from an organization, we run some 75 TV channels. 22 are news for sure, but remaining are non-news. So the general entertainment channels, they have lesser of infrastructure but high revenue potential. Wherein news, it is high infrastructure, more number of people, but less of revenues. So it's a interesting scenario. And all of us who are associated with this have challenges in their hand. And while I say this, many of you who are listening, I'm sure you would also, part of you would come to the media, while as resource, as publisher, you all are publisher for the media. From the management point of view, if you would come, that is wherein the cost and creativity part becomes important from that way. Well, so other point that I would say, once we came out of this pause button, which I mentioned, when we moved it to the play button, there were some revelations or some understanding that we realized. One was that while all of us were under stress, the internet was also under stress. The bandwidth available for consumer, because the consumption had increased tremendously, and that was not planned consumption. So internet was at stress. You would not know, but there would be the telecom association, the operators association, formally approached the content providers, and we together have lowered our quality of the content from not to pure high definition. We brought it down nearing to the standard definition so that the bandwidth consumption could be managed. And all of us continue to consume that, but on the back end, we were forced to do that part of it. So internet was a stress. And even today also, when I say that the consumer media or the traditional media will continue, that also comes from the back of this, that today, in case entire primetime television viewing, if it has to be done on digital platform, then only around 3.7 to 3.9% of total viewing can happen over internet. That is the capacity of internet globally I'm talking of. So it's a long journey what this digital infrastructure has to do it. Things have surely improved over last few years, but then it's a long journey. Because when we talk about a digital media, the consumers who were, when it was from a household point of view, say in a family of 4, we would consume one media at a time. Now with digital, 4 of us would consume 4 different medias. So the impact or the requirement from infrastructure point of view has increased manifold, and that is a challenge. When I talk of the technology people who are available over here, they have that challenge in hand, how to write good algorithms so that you do not require that much of bandwidth for a good quality content. how you could enhance the technologies to provide same level of experience with lesser of resources. By a study, for example, the technologies have improved, the algorithms have improved, but then on an average, a page load time has increased by around 27% over last 5 years. This is at the face of it, it would look non-acceptable, but that is the fact, because we have made the page so heavy, because the requirement of multi-formatted information is there. We want to bombard the information on a page, because of which the page load time has increased. So that as a technologist, while the content, they would want to do that, consumer would remain the king and they would keep demanding. As a technology people, we need to find solutions around that part of it. Second related point, when we started the play button, was the carbon footprint. The digital media, the moment we consume the digital media, we are not helping the environment. The large number of data centers required, they generate a lot of heat, and it's not a green environment. To an estimate, even, and that is not limited to last 5-7 months of pandemic, even earlier, the carbon footprint of media industry was a bit higher than that of aviation industry from global point of view. And how does it happen? Like, we all are sitting over here, few of us would be watching it, few of us would also be simultaneously working on our mobile phone and uploading something, one photograph. We would also be happy to do it again, the same photograph, without having any sort of recognition of this, that this is somewhere loading something. So while we remain focused on our handset, our life is, I have captured in that 5-inch form factor, but then that has an impact on rest of the other things. And that is the point that which I was quite eager to make it while I talk to the young professionals, the budding professionals, that we need to be conscious. And here we all, while the technologies should make good algorithms, good solutions, so that the environment is safeguarded, even all of us are consumers. We also should be aware about that part of it. The third point, again, and I'll keep it brief, so that I feel we are running out of time. So the third point is when we move the play button, was the cyber challenges, the incidents of cyber crimes. It has increased so many fold over last few months, though that was a trend all through. While good things were also accelerated by COVID, even these things were also accelerated. Now, each step of digitization is actually one step towards the risk. The moment we go digitally by putting our data or info in a digital wallet, or for that matter, the moment we adopt to a digital banking, while we are happy at our achievement in making things simple, we are also enhancing the risk towards that. And this is not something which has been working well in some other parts of the globe, and we could follow that. The scenario is the same, the risk is the same. To an estimate, in the year 2021, almost 6 trillion worth of damages will be caused by cyber crimes globally. And to provide a perspective, 6 trillion meaning overall economy, global economy is somewhere around 140 trillion, and this 6 trillion becomes almost 3.5%. So though this cyber crimes which would happen also go back to the same economy, but then that is a unethical economy that would happen. So we need to safeguard from that point of view. Even India also is by an estimate of last year, almost 1% of the total economy gets impacted by the cyber crimes. We would hear so many incidents of cyber crime almost every day. We could see that. We may tend to ignore that, but those are the alarms that we should surely recognize and move on. The data that we have across the data, the moment we consume anything on digital, we are putting out our data, which is in custody of someone else. When we say cloud is something. Why the name cloud? Because cloud is something which is generic, which we can see it from the far, but we cannot put a name to it. That is why this cloud technology, and that is what is happening. We would put our data somewhere, we do not know where it is, but we say it is in the cloud, it is digital. It has positives, certainly the efficiency is there, but also the risk part of it. The use of data analytics to put a content targeting, ad targeting is all fine. To use data analytics to do augmented reality, virtual reality, like putting out floating studio for presentation values, holograms for presentation values, it's all good. Those are, I fully support that part of it. But then using data analytics, say for doing a speech synthesis, like Barack Obama, his lecture was done in Washington University without Barack Obama. So the data, it was used how his lip movement was happen, how would his expressions would happen with respect to the content, and they could reproduce that part of it. How scary is that? So we need to be very, very conscious with respect to that. I'm not sure if how many of you would have watched in Netflix, there was a series called Social Dilemma. I'm not sure of how many of you would have watched that. It talks about so much of this aspect. There is a statement, there is a one dialogue over there, which says, this is a checkmate on humanity. This may sound a bit filmy, but then it surely reflects the seriousness of the issue. And why I am telling this thing to you is that you, as a future generation, you need to be conscious about that part. You have the responsibility towards that. You should apply technology judiciously with a bigger objective of the mankind. So just to conclude, I would say with the changing environment which is happening around us and going forward, to prepare yourself, I would say COVID was something which no one had ever imagined. So we must always keep ideation and innovation as a continuous efforts. Innovation of one generation becomes a commodity to the next. So there is nothing like a static innovation. It will continue, and we all need to look at that. We should be ready to embrace failures. The culture of embracing failure is very, very, very important. Unless until we do that, we would not be able to move ahead or bring in something big. Security consciousness, as I say, this is, to me, it is one of the biggest culture or recognition that we should do. Make ourselves aware, keep our family aware, keep telling our community about this part of it. More the awareness, lesser is the probability of crimes that would happen. And here the damage would be at the individual level. So that is something very important. So actually it's too much of data around us. So I would say learn how to control the chaos. And if you are able to control the chaos or manage that madness of data, I'm sure professionally you are on the path of success for sure. I would leave it at that. Perhaps we could go to the interactive session once we come to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really insightful to hear from you. The key points again that I could make out from your discussion was, of course, the segregation between the essential and the non-essential that kind of COVID has taught us. And I just loved your parallel with respect to it. I think we all kind of I think that's a heartbeat of the nation, if I can say, and how media has really enhanced the experience of any of this event. That way, like I actually come from a family where, we sit in a particular chair so that, somebody doesn't get out. So, that much is the attachment. But that was really, interesting and very easy to relate to. Then, of course, coming from a technologist point of view, when we hear, the last part of your discussion, when you talk about the ethical dimension, the security dimension, the sustainability dimension of, this whole data madness, if I can say, that is happening around us. and the technology driving it. Of course, we needed it, and thank God, it was there. It has really helped us around COVID probably much easily. But having said that, there is a caveat, and you probably, you being in the game, you understand it probably much better than any of us. So sensitizing us on that was really great. Thank you for that. And finally, of course, we all understand that again, taking the digitization example, that innovation cannot stop, right? So that was another key point that we had as a learning here, that just like digitization was an innovation earlier, and as you said that innovation of one period is consumption for the other. So right now we are consuming it, and consuming it so much, as you just said. Similarly, the innovation has to continue, because we don't know the next threat or opportunity where it would come from. And this innovation is only going to kind of take us there or help us to sail through. So thank you very much, sir. I would now, I think we have lots of questions. So there are a lot of pop-ups that has been happening to me during your presentations. And of course, I also have quite a few questions. Being a moderator, I get that privilege, if I can say. There's this a common point that I could hear from both of you was with respect to this, moving to a different business model, say from an advertiser-driven model to, say, user-driven model, right? So, and as you said that probably section of the population at least is, willing to pay for good content, right? So, while I agree to that, being an economist, but there's one dimension of media, which is like, where the subsidization model was helping was letting you to reach the news to every segment of the society who may or may not have the ability to pay, right? So when you change this business model, how are you going to address that? Like, really the bottom of the pyramid. How do you, aim to, reach the news to them? So I think both of you can take this question.
So, Navaneeth, would you want to go for this?
Yeah, I will take this.
Yeah.
See, we have never been fully free. Like with everything else, we have been far too subsidized. And that approach doesn't, see, end of the day, if you need to stay true to your purpose and continue to make a difference for the greater good, it is well and good to say that. But to act on that, you need to be viable. And it is in that sense that that it's a good business model to decrease dependence on advertising and increase reliance on subscription. So one is the physical product itself, where your cover price, but physical products generally have a habit of getting shared. So to that extent, it's like a family watching a television. But in this case, people don't read together, but they do pass on the physical products. On digital, for instance, there are various business models on digital. Part of it being you should be accessible to a larger part of the population. So we have a metered paywall in our case. So for instance, we offer around 10 articles per month free. And if anybody wants to access more than 10 articles, then you have to pay. So and a lot of people, and the 10 articles suffices for a vast majority of consumers. Consumers who engage more and consume deeply and widely get to pay. Second, these are not necessarily cast in stone rules. As a responsible media house, you do respond. For instance, during the pandemic, all our COVID-related content was free. So we had a 10 article limit, but we said safety, accurate information around COVID, creating awareness trumps business interests. So we made all that content free. So I think that the models that are workable, and any responsible media house will find ways of caring for its constituents and caring for its society and make the right interventions.
Well, it's a more suited subject for Navaneeth, and he is an expert on that. So I would not be able to add to what he said rather than just echoing what. But then yes, it's a small view is that when we talk about there is a duty and which we call it in the public service, and then there is a business. Now it remains a fact that media organizations are into the business of media. They also serve the society by providing so much of employment. So to do that, it comes at a cost, and there has to be a channel to get yourself financed. So it would be not viable to keep it entirely free. Having advertising coming to fund it has been always a way to do, and that is what is happening in India. But that becomes intrusive to certain segment of consumers. So it has to be balanced between the two, which has to happen. There would be a model like Navaneeth said, 10 stories free in a month, or could be the headlines could be free, and when you go to the detail part of the article, that is wherein you need to subscribe or pay that part of it. Different models would be there, and but for sure the basic or essential news which is required for a mankind or required for citizens will surely be available because of one reason or other. It would surely be there. That I feel the industry would be responsible about.
Thank you. So related to this question, so we often talk about this digital divide, right? So we have one section, of course, thanks to say the mobile phone penetration. Of course, the digital penetration has been quite significant, I would say, as compared to other infrastructure. So, but there you see this, two segments of the population. One is digitally savvy, and that, and there is the other population by choice or by design, if I can say, because some of us still, want to read the physical newspaper always. Does that, affect your scale of operation, for instance? Because like, if I understand, like if it's a one product, for instance, like a newspaper, and the volumes are quite high, then it's a different kind of scale. Vis-a-vis, if suppose, there's a large section, or at least a large section of the urban population, which is probably moving to a digital consumption alone. I don't know, I mean, you would know the statistics, how it's moving. So does that affect your scale in terms of managing both? If I understand digitally, probably the fixed cost is there and variable cost would be low. But maybe more from the print version, how do you see it?
I think there are. It's a very relevant question in a larger context, not just from a publishing business. But I'll answer the publishing part and share my thoughts about why it's an important problem to solve for the world, and what my thoughts about that are. See, the consumers of the physical product and digital product are different and the same, and it doesn't. We don't see patterns of what we would imagine to be that millennials are consumers of digital, elderly people are. It has got to do with habits and access. And in many cases, if you're used to one physical product, you would top it up with other digital products, etc., etc. Our belief is digital penetration will grow, and the way we mount our businesses. So, end of the day, what are we? We are a content generating machine. By machine, I mean we are geared towards generating content. Then we make sense of what's happening and we articulate our views. So the same content gets deployed across platforms, whether it's a video or it's a podcast. But then on digital, digital allows you to do a lot more. So I can make it more interactive. I can do backstories. I can reference it to context from archives, etc., etc. So the scale of operations isn't inhibited by access to digital today. And also when you look at digital, the marketplace is not the markets you traditionally operate in. See what happens, uh, like telephony, for instance. So if you were to invest in tower technology in very small markets with little potential, the economies of scale don't work out. Similarly, to invest in a press in a small market and to run the business with lesser number of copies doesn't make economic sense, because advertising needs decent amount of leadership position. But there are multiple markets both in India and outside the world where you have reasonable sizes of audiences wanting to consume your content. In that case, I think what digital enables you to do is to have ambitions of reaching all parts of the world. And digital has made niche a mass. So if I have 100 people in 100 cities, that's mass. That's one part of it. But I think the larger part is how do we solve for digital inequality? Like we talk about health, we talk about education. Today, digital inequality is a problem that all of us should come together to solve. And I think media has a role there. And I would say there are areas or countries or states or cities or communities which have high access to digital and high consumption of digital. There, the role of media is to influence them about problems that matter, how you can enlist their support to solve. Then you have areas with access to digital but unequal ownership. So, for instance, if I want to solve for remote health in a community, and today it's possible in a community which has access but unequal distribution of digital access, then you work with communities and ensure that community gets access as a whole. That's a role media can play. But the larger part is areas without access to digital at all, and much of the world doesn't have access to digital. While we know digital creates its own set of problems, like if you watch the Netflix documentary and what Mr. Rajat spoke about data privacy issues, digital solves for many real life problems. And I think media should work with policymakers, NGOs, social influencers, think tanks to enable investment to solve for access in digital dark areas. I think that's a far more compelling issue, and it's a problem truly worth solving in my view.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. The last note that you had, in fact, social dilemma is such a scary, and it really opens your eyes. In fact, I'm teaching a course on behavioral economics this module, and I told all my students that Social Dilemma is one movie that we are all going to watch and kind of dissect it in all possible ways, because the ethical dimension, there, and I do agree that media, I think something probably I had not thought, and this was a learning here, that media would have a very important role to play in creating that awareness, amongst people that what digital is actually doing to you. We don't realize that. Sorry, with being an economist, I have somehow when you were talking, there were so many questions that were popping out of in that area. So now I just move on to a question relating to competition. So, as we would like to believe always that competition is good and that kind of needs to be propagated. But tell me this, like with so many news channels and, 24 hours running, is competition really good? so that is within media channels, and then my next question would move to social media. But what do you feel about competition in terms of the news content, if I can say, how it has helped or not helped?
We'll request Mr. Rajat to take this. Then I will.
So, in principally, when we say competition is always good for a marketplace, or for that matter consumers, here the good part in the changing scenario is that we all are consumers, and consumers are becoming king. They are demanding. So there is no sort of, in a positive manner, I would say, loyalty towards any channel, or for that matter, any content provider. If I get a good content on Amazon Prime, I will subscribe to that. If there is good content on Boot, I will go to Boot. If it is there on Netflix, I will go there and pay for it. Similarly, for the news channels as well, it is the quality of presentation which becomes important. Typically, say I'll just take 60 seconds on that. See, when we talk about non-news content, those are fiction content wherein the creativity comes into play, and then you define what is the product. In news, the basic information is the same for everyone. So the first part of the value chain on a news channel is something which is happening. You have to cover something which is happening. Say, for example, Bihar elections, or for that matter, any other event which has happened. So that is common for everyone else. So if there are 100 players, all of them have got access to that. Now, how do you deal with that? How do you treat that particular news item? How do you present it? How you can make it rich? How you can make it balanced? How well you can explain it to the consumers to relate, so that they could relate to the truth. That is what would make it different. Now, since these are all things which would be having an intangible yardstick, that is wherein the more number of channels, for that matter, would be there. But it is the market which would define that would decide that how many players. More the merrier, and as a concept. But then how many of those channels, for that matter, are consumed by what percentage of consumers? And when we talk about traditional news channels per se, large part of its consumption, and for that matter, Navaneeth, that could be also true for the newspapers as well. Those are consumed by the population which is 40 years plus, largely. The younger generation, for that matter, the millennials, they are actually not consuming the traditional news that way. So they are engaged more on the social part of it, and that is from where they derive what is good for them, what is relevant for them. So I would rather say that.
No, in our case, Rajat, I think during consumption during COVID has really challenged some of our own assumptions. So we are seeing a lot of younger consumers gravitating to physical products, to e-paper. So I'm not seeing that trend, but I think what Ms. Poonam asked had a lot of subtext to it. I think what she didn't ask was more than what she asked of that question. My response to that has always been, you look at something like popular culture. So for instance, cinema. I mean, all of us have a view of cinema. We have a view of the kind of songs, the remixes, the banal lyrics in some songs. And we have a point of view, right? Saying, how can this movie run? Why don't we get better cinema? So some of those are solved by intervention. So for instance, the OTT space allows you to make what you and I would define as good, tasteful content, because all you need there is some of niche to make a mass. But if you look at the larger space, we might have issues with the kind of cinema that's successful, the kind of cinema that runs. We have issues with the leaders we elect. So I believe we get the culture we deserve, we get the government we deserve, we get the media we deserve.
Now you have, what you said has got more subtext, perhaps.
Yes. No, because her question was probably that. So.
So I'm just hoping, this whole model that you said, that moving from the business model change that you were saying, so from advertiser driven to user driven, probably that would help in positive direction as well. And we would be, as consumers, we would be made more responsible, that we also pay for what we want to see. So I think again related to that is now, of course, this whole social media that has come. I do see, and this was there in both of your discussions, that there seems to be a collaboration, between the two. like there's a news first coming, and there's an input output that is happening. And we do also see that traditional media houses, they are using the social media space as well, right? So one question that we have in that regard is that how important is it for traditional business houses to handle this, like why do you want to have the social media account, and will this synergy help in increasing the engagement?
So yeah,
please take it.
Got it? Yeah. Okay, so social media accounts, or for that matter social media phenomena, has actually added dimension to the traditional media. By very nature of social media, just associating or integrating that social media with the traditional media, the traditional media has become interactive, and that is something very, very high in importance, because I get to know what my consumer is wanting, what is the general sentiment in the field. A few decades back, when so I'm talking of the early 90s for that matter, the evening news, which would be broadcast on Doordarshan at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, the headlines of that, if that could correlate with the headlines of the next day's Times of India, then in the newsroom, we would come up and say, okay, this was right way of analyzing the news. It's actually, so we had to wait for 12 hours to feel that, yes, that is right. Now, today's time, it's all the while live interaction, live feedback that one gets it. And the social media is actually driving the content as well. So it is the consumer as well as the resource for the traditional media. And it's not at all a competition. It's actually an additional channel for distribution and an additional channel of news gathering as well. So it's a very, very important part. Social media, the evolution of social media that has happened, it has actually enhanced the way the news is treated and the news is produced.
Right. So, while we are on the positive note on social media, just one question regarding this. While there are, I think, a lot of news is coming, more news is coming through more mediums, if I can say. But there's also this whole thing of fake news that we see around, right? So do you think, regulation, or, I mean, what would be your suggestions on the mechanisms to really curb on the fake news aspect through social media or otherwise?
That's a fairly complex question. But the truth is there's too much fake news out there. And I think while the internet has democratized opinion, the internet has fueled fake, biased, agenda-driven opinion as well. My sense is larger brands which have larger teams which invest in fact checking, get things right, who prioritize accuracy over breaking, tend to get this right. But there is fake news, Manas. I think it requires industry and government to work together and have a stronger framework around either regulation or self-regulation. And today you are seeing multiple bodies emerge to sort of track this and certify. I think at an individual level, we are doing reasonably well. At a collective level, a lot more to be done.
I would see the fake news phenomena to be managed by three sort of stakeholders. One is, as Navaneeth says, the government, which is to create a regulation around that. Regulation comes with both the punishment and the framework part of it, the penalties and the framework part of it, which is very important to do a business, or for that matter to control something. That is one. Two is the self-regulation, wherein the media houses, they should not rush in the flurry of this is first on my channel or first report here. We need to get away from there. apply those self-regulation. And third, again, like I would go to my fraternity and I will talk about the technologists. They have a task in hand. They should have the data analytics when we do it. Those data analytics, those should become very, very handy, which could provide a tool in the hands of the editors to quickly check the whether it is a fake or how true that news is. There would be actually fake news is a conclusive noun from that point of view, but there would be a developing story with the aberrations, and those are quite dangerous rather. Like if there is something law and order problem, and if untrue incidents are broadcast or untrue incidents are published, those would have impact on general life or civilians as well. So wherein they could always course correct it after a while. Okay, that so the things are in control now. But for that particular moment, they've created those sort of stress, or for that matter, it could have a rather serious implication as well. So it's all three, and together as stakeholders of the media or the ecosystem has that serious responsibility at hand.
Okay, so I am getting this thing from my students that time is up. So I have, but there's one question which I'm sorry I have to ask, and this is to both of you. So I think the point was made by Mr. Navaneeth, which was about media's role as an influencer, right? And you were talking about positive influence. This is now related to the fake news aspect as well, what we were talking, even social dilemma for that matter. Like while, we, because this is very much interest driven or people driven, right? So if you want to positively influence, there would, it also creates a space for negative influence. And we are kind of seeing that, right? So how, how we can distinguish that, or how do we ensure that it's the good that drives the bad out of the market? So that is one question, and let me just club it since, so this is with specific relation to technology, and, again, drawing from social dilemma, they had used this word persuasive technology there. So like you, sir, like Rajat sir, you had just said that, there's no customer loyalty right now. So how would technology, and this also has an influencing role, that's why I'm clubbing the question here, how would consumer loyalty can be, induced through technology? So this is a club question that I have to both of you.
So should I take the second question first?
Yeah, you please take both the questions.
No,
I also take part of it. So
it's well, this is the when we talk about technology, that persuasive technology part of it. So technology can at best be a tool. It is the man behind the machine will always remain all the more important. It's actually we did not recognize the advent of internet and its implications, and that is wherein we landed up in a scenario wherein the auto publishing, or for that matter the traditional media houses, they had to look towards Google and Facebook to publish their news and all, and so many aggregator platforms have come up for that. But if we use the internet, or if we use the data, if we use all the technology at our hand judiciously for generating content which is true, which is good, which is consumable, which is relevant, the loyalty would be an outcome of it. We cannot push a consumer, and we all at the end of the day are consumers ourselves. So it would not be right from our point of view that we need to be pushed to be relevant to only one segment of product. The variety certainly helps us. That also pushes the industry also to help competition that way. As we discussed earlier, competition is always good. The more number of consumers or variety of consumers coming in also pushes the creativity also. For example, the Big Boss, if I talk about Big Boss, is a highly popular fiction, the reality show. We would do earlier a linear feed of it, which would go on television. The 24 hours would get edited in a 1 hour thing, and we would do that. Then we recognized, okay, there are viewers who are beyond that. We started streaming it 24/7. So the Big Pause feed is available 24/7. It is with less of activity. You will see silence in the house, people getting ready, etc., etc., etc. But there are people available for that. Then there is a versioning also which we wanted to do. That is, certain segments of people would want to know behind the scenes part of it. So the same content, again, we reversioned it for that part of it. So here what is happening, the creativity is being pushed to provide a content which is relevant for different segments of consumers. Now, in case there was a loyalty with respect to that, if I'm not challenged, I would have rather remained with a single version of the content. But here I'm challenged, and just to woo my consumers, I've started providing to them what is relevant for them. Similarly, for the news part as well, it is the news which is relevant, which is true, which is rich in presentation value. Like when we use augmented reality, I mentioned about floating studio. We used in last election a floating studio. The election results, everybody was giving the same, with somebody will give a BJP ad or somebody will give Congress ad, and after a matter of half an hour, everybody will align to the same numbers. But then how you present it, we put a floating studio wherein we took during the Delhi elections, we took the anchor in that stadium away in the sky, floating around Delhi to show them the environment over there, just more to enhance the presentation value part of it. And that is important. At the end of the day, the benefit of that goes to the consumers. And I would still remain with that. Being a technologist, persuasive technology is something which can at best be a tool in the hands of the creators, but then to be used in the interest of consumers. And consumers, it's a good thing that has happened in the industry. Earlier, it used to be content is the king. That used to be said. Today, the consumer is the king, and that is something good that has happened. And I would love that.
Ms. Poonam, to answer your question, I do believe we need to positively influence. And there's a difference between, and why do we want to do that? Written into our purpose is the greater good, right? What is good for individuals, families, communities, towns, cities, states, country, and humanity. The idea of what is for the greater good is very different from the ideology of what is the greater good. If we are able to differentiate between idea and ideology, stay within the realm of idea, I truly believe we may be divided. We have extreme views. We are more polarized than ever before. But my belief is all of us are well-intentioned. So we agree on ideas, we differ on ideology. And the idea space has many compelling inequalities to solve for. That is solvable. I don't see people being on two sides of the fences as far as the idea of greater good is concerned. And we should operate in that space.
Thank you very much. I must admit, this has been like a week or more than a week that we are interacting with various industry leaders. And this is one common thing that resonates, is that there is good, and there's a greater good. So on that positive note, I think I will stop my Q&A here. The last request that I had before I hand it over to our Indrani, our student coordinator, is that if you have any tips for our students. I heard you all that there's a lot of opportunity and techno managers also have a lot of role, but the passing remark, if I can say, from both of you.
Rajat?
Well, we have a lot of hopes. We are in that age, at least I can say about it. Navaneeth is much younger. I can say much experience, but then much younger to me. But so we have a lot of dependency and a lot of hopes towards the upcoming generation. And I really wish all the best to them. I would, as I said earlier, the innovation is something very important. We all need to thrive about that. We should not rest with one innovation done and move on, because that becomes a commodity. It is a continuous phenomena. We should do that. We should manage the madness around data. And that is what I would say, while remaining cyber aware and cyber safe. That's it. My best wishes to all of you. It has been pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Again, my best wishes, and I think the current students are in a way privileged because you are seeing a crisis unfold before your eyes, even before you become leaders and managers. A lot of uncertainty in the short term, but the future is bright for all of us. So best wishes. And the one thing I always share is go back to my student days. Don't let the world decide what success means. Define your own success metrics. Measure your progress, happiness, worth, everything based on what you think of as success. Don't let others define success. Nobody's views matters. Your own views and your own assessments of what you are. Because to me, success is not to become a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. My definition of success could be to be happy throughout the day and help 4 people. So define your own metrics of success and live up to them. Never let the world define what success means. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This, I think, whole session, I think all the audiences would agree with me and our students as well that it was a very enriching, enriching experience. And more so, the comfort level that both of you shared, and in fact, even Dr. Batra with all of you, it's really very comforting to see and made me also very comfortable in the process. I can actually go on for days, and we would hope this would be just a beginning of the association that we have with you, not only in this space, but more. We would surely want to have more and more of you. So hope we keep in touch. So on that note, thank you very much. And I just hand it over to Indrani. Indrani, over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam ma'am. Thank you, sir. Really, it was a very thought-provoking session for us. Now, I would like to conclude the event. I, on behalf of NITIE fraternity, extend sincere gratitude to all our esteemed guests for taking up precious time from their demanding schedule to interact and share their knowledgeable insights with us. We would like to thank our Honorable Director, Sir, Dr. Manoj Singh Tiwari, Dean Student Affairs, Professor Hema Date, PIC Public Relations Cell, Professor Poonima Sangle, and PIC Media Relations Cell, Professor Poonam Singh, for their support and guidance throughout the event. We would again like to thank Professor Poonam Singh for gracefully moderating and seamlessly handling the session. Finally, I want to invite the organizing team, Media Relations Cell group members, to click a virtual photograph with the guest. With your permission, sir.
Thank you. Please do.
Thank you, sir.
Please do and share the picture with us for our memories.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we will look for that.
Yes, sir, sure. One minute.
It's done, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Speaker.
Thank you so much.
It's a privilege talking to you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Navaneeth.
Thank you. And I'll stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Sure, we'll meet up. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.